Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me
we are back. You are back. It is That Effin' Sports Show. I am Chris Fox, and as always, I have with me the Adam Hulse, NFL writer over at sportskita.com. Check him out at Adam Hulse Sports on Twitter. Branch out from there. He's been here for every team, every game throughout the NFL. We do it on the fly. We look at the game, we give you the win or the loss, and we move on to the next one. We've gone through almost the entire NFL. We're down to the last three teams. We're here on the Broncos. 11 of these games are decided. Actually, more than that now. We got 13 of these games for Denver decided. Some we might look at and wish we could take back. Of course, we're not going to do that. But with 13 out of the 17 games already decided, it is interesting to kind of go back and reflect and think about why we took one team or the other in some of these matchups.
We keep saying it, but that's why this series is so interesting, because with these last couple of teams that we're going to do, their fate is kind of sort of already determined, right? You know, with only picking 4 games for the Broncos, sure, it could swing them one way or the other, you know, for wild card contention and things like that. But a large bulk of how they're going to do this season was determined when we were picking other teams' games. So that's what makes it interesting. And let's see where the Broncos stand.
You want to bring up interesting. Interesting is the word, because the Broncos went 5-12 last year. Of course, they finished last in the division. They went 1-1 against the Chargers. They got swept by the Raiders. Of course, they got swept by Kansas City. Points for, they were last in the league. 21 for passing offense, but they were 7th in pass defense, 10th in rush defense. Points against was 14. That's respectable. And believe it or not, Russell Wilson was QB 16 on your fantasy rosters. Not one you'd be extremely happy to carry, but he's still, you know, right there. Top half of the league. Yardage, he was QB 13. Touchdowns, only QB 19, and that's where it comes in. QB 19 on touchdowns with only 16, 60.5% completion rating. That's not great for your quarterback. So what do the Broncos do? They wipe out their running back room, just clean it out. They bring in Peton. They have wide receivers to work with. Sutton finished at 43. Judy finished at 22. Judy, a fantastic receiver, had some injury issues. The thing I like about Judy, 31 passes he caught that went 20 plus yards. That's not a horrible number. That's pretty nice. 829 through the air for Sutton, 922 for Judy. The touchdowns, again, Sutton only had 2, Judy only had 6. They've got to pick up this offensive production in the end zone. So they bring in McClinchy and Kyle Fuller to help protect Russell. They bring in Callaway. They help out the defense a little bit with Smith, but really it's the cleaning of the running back room. I love Dulcich, by the way. I love this guy. I think he's going to be a superstar. Watch Greg Dulcich. I think he's going to be fantastic. And of course, the biggest thing they bring in is Sean Payton. And I know you're very high on Payton. We're about to go through the schedule. For you, I know Payton is the game changer in Denver.
Absolutely. I mean, I love Sean Payton. I mean, he's an offensive genius, an offensive legend. Obviously, everything that he did with Drew Brees with the Saints, you know, that's the obvious stuff. But, you know, the other stuff he did with the Saints as well. I mean, let's not forget that before Jameis Winston tore his ACL, they went 5-2 with Jameis Winston. I mean, Jameis Winston looked like a lost cause. He looked like a legitimate starter with a guy like Sean Payton. Sean Payton knows how to coach offense. He knows how to coach quarterbacks. The main thing I've been saying about Sean Payton with this Broncos situation is he pretty much picked this situation. He came out of retirement to coach the Broncos with Russell Wilson. There was a lot of teams that wanted him. He could have went to other places. He could have just stayed retired and kept his studio job and continued as an analyst. He would not have joined the Broncos unless he believed that they are a Super Bowl contender with him, with Russell Wilson. And if he believes that, who am I not to believe him?
I truly believe that they have talent at quarterback. I think they have talent in the wide receiver room. Perine helps in the running game. I think they could use a couple more people. I'd love to see him go out and get like Dalvin Cook or something like that. But that said, let's get into the schedule. We already gave Denver the loss in week 1 to Las Vegas, but it's the week 1 rust. It's the gelling of the minds and everybody kind of coming together. It's week 1, so it's not like a big thing to lose in week 1, and so we're comfortable with that. We back it up in week 2. We give them the win with the Commanders coming in. The Commanders a game they should win, and then in week 3 they go to Miami. and take the L. Something to think about as we run through this Denver schedule is that, yes, they beat Houston and Arizona. Those are games that they're supposed to win, but they also beat San Francisco and Jacksonville last year. So those 5 wins, 2 of those were against San Francisco and Jacksonville. The talent was there before Sean Payton got there. As we go through this schedule, I think you're going to see that reflected with improvement and, again, quality wins that they're supposed to take. That said, week 3, Tua probably still there. Miami, great team. Denver has to travel. We did give Denver the loss in week 3 at Miami.
Not also forget how much of a disaster Nathaniel Hackett was as a head coach last year. First time head coach. This happens sometimes. He was way out of his league. He was not prepared for this. He was botching timeout calls. He was botching his post-game press conferences and giving weird answers and saying he's nervous and like stuff like this. He wasn't ready to be a head coach. That just didn't work out. You're replacing him with Sean Payton. I mean, you know, the improvement there is astronomical. And as you referenced before, too, they have a really good roster. There's a lot of good players on this team. And when you look at some of the numbers from last year, you can make a case that they were actually better than their record says that they were. So a lot of things to like when you kind of mix that all together. Now, you reference, you know, the opening week loss to the Raiders. When you do major, complete philosophical changes, like to the head coach and to the entire scheme and all of that, it usually takes a couple weeks to kind of warm up and get things rolling and kind of get into that groove, because it is big changes and those really are a big deal. That's kind of why I think we both went with more the Raiders in that first loss. You mentioned the Dolphins game as well. The one in the middle is against the Commanders, and I mean, I don't think really much matters when you're playing the Commanders. I think just about everybody's going to beat the Commanders sleepwalking this year. So
it's so true. It really is true. Week 4, they go to Chicago. I actually said Denver loses in Chicago. It's the defense for me, the reason that they take this loss, and the fact that it's still week 4. But you did say that things are coming together in week 4 at Chicago. You gave Denver the win.
I mean, you know, 3 weeks, you know, by week 4, I mean, things could kind of, you know, really be coming together at this point. Chicago, not world beaters by any, you know, sense of that phrase. And the other thing, too, is with how good the AFC is, the Broncos better get it together early in the season. If this adjustment period lingers for too long in the beginning, they're going to be out of it before they ever have a chance. And even if they get rolling towards the end, it might be too little too late.
They do have a lot of division games at the end. Week 5, the Jets come to Denver, and I think it's because it's in Denver that we give Denver the win against the Jets. I think the Jets are going to be tough this year. As I've said in previous episodes, in Denver, we go ahead and give Denver the win week 5.
I mean, Denver's defense, Denver playing at home in that elevation, always a huge advantage for the Broncos. And for me personally, if you go back and listen to that Jets episode, I was talking about adjustment periods for the Broncos. I think it's going to be a huge adjustment period for the Jets, and I actually have them getting off to a pretty rough start to the season. If you want to hear how rough it was, go back and listen to that Jets episode.
Absolutely. Go back and listen to that Jets episode like Adam says. Listen to Adam. He's an NFL writer. Go check it out. Week 6, Denver goes to Kansas City. Kansas City swept Denver last year. That was without Sean Payton, but in Kansas City, honestly, regardless of how it looked, and we'll find out if this actually holds true when we get to the Kansas City episode. Go check out that Chiefs episode to see how it all plays out. But in Kansas City, it's really hard to pick against Mahomes.
Kansas City playing at home. Mahomes been so dominant against the AFC West. I got to take the Chiefs.
Kansas City fastly becoming one of those stadiums that you just don't want to play in, much like New England or Seattle. Week 7, Green Bay comes to Denver. Denver getting better, improved. Green Bay, not sure what we're going to get. Both of us give Denver the win against Green Bay.
Hard for me to like Green Bay too much this year. I mean, you can really only like them, I guess, if you're a Jordan Love believer. I know they have some other good things kind of going on in Green Bay. I look at the Packers as a rebuilding team this year with all those, you know, young receivers, the, you know, first-time quarterback. I think it's going to be a tough road for the Packers this season.
Definitely seems that way at face value. They played Kansas City at week 6. They got to play him again in week 8, but this time it's in Denver. Kansas City swept them last year. Different team this year. You're really high on the home splits. Are you going to do it? Does Denver get the win against Kansas City in Denver in week 8?
Well, you know, I mean, I said it before. Mahomes has absolutely dominated this AFC West. You said they swept them last year. Since Mahomes took over, they've been sweeping a lot of these divisional series in every season that he's been a starter. But you're right. I love these home splits. I'm higher than most, I think, on the Broncos this year. I'm taking the mini upset. The Broncos steal one at home here.
I got your back, brother. I am also giving Denver the win. Already had it marked down before you ever said anything. It may not work. It may backfire. It doesn't make sense when you go back and look at the history as you brought up. We believe in Russ. We believe in Peton enough to pull off a home win, to pull off an upset before the bye in week 9. And then what's funny enough, in week 10, even after the bye, because Denver has to travel across the country to Buffalo, we say that they lose to Buffalo in week 10. It's the travel.
I mean, the travel is definitely part of it. You know, getting that upset against the Chiefs could be that, you know, game that people finally start taking the Broncos a little bit seriously. And, like, you know, maybe this Russell Wilson and Sean Payton thing, maybe there's really something to it. Then having to travel to Buffalo, you mentioned the travel, kind of a comeback to earth kind of game. And a lot of times when you see those big emotional upset kind of wins against a team like the Chiefs, division rival, Patrick Mahomes, defending Super Bowl champions, you can have that let down the next week. Even adding to that recipe is the fact that the Bills have been one of the best teams in the NFL over the last 3 years. Beating the Chiefs and Bills back to back is tough for anybody to do, but with all the other things factored in, I'm going Bills.
At least they got a bye in there, so, you know, this may come out differently, but if Adam said it, I have some belief in it. Have no fear. Don't get too mad, Broncos fans. Look, week 11, Minnesota comes to Denver. We give Denver the win. Week 12, Cleveland comes in. We give Denver the win. Week 13, they get to go to Houston. We give Denver the win. So look, we're giving Denver six out of the 8 games from week 5 to week 13. Those games that fall in there, we only have Denver losing twice. One's to Kansas City, one's to Buffalo. Those are respectable losses. Give us a little love here, Denver fans, because we're definitely giving your team a little love. And Minnesota, Cleveland, Houston, those are games that Denver needs to win. They should win if they hope to reestablish themselves as a contender.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this is the kind of 3-game stretch that I think they kind of have to win all 3 of these games. Because when you're coming off of the 5-3-game stretch before it, kind of like you referenced, they played the Chiefs twice, the Bills, and the Jets in a 5-game stretch. I mean, that's a tough little stretch. Then they get this relief of a little easier-ish 3 in a row here, a little more favorable section. If they really want to be contenders this year, they got to get the job done during this stretch, so I gave them the win in all 3.
The last 5 games, 3 of them are divisional games, 2 of them are against the Chargers. Week 14, they go to LA to play the Chargers. Chargers trying to live up to potential. Chargers 10 wins last year. Listen to the Chargers episode to see where we got them finishing this year. Denver in LA. This feels like one of those home split situations to me.
It sure does feel like one of those home split situations. Both of these teams believe that they should be playoff teams. Obviously, with the Peton thing with the Broncos, the Chargers got there last year before getting their hearts ripped out by Trevor Lawrence in the second half when they had a huge lead at halftime. They think they should return and make progress again this year. Both of these teams kind of on even-ish playing fields. Home split all the way in this one. Yeah,
they split last year with the Chargers. Why not split them again this year? Week 15, they lose because they're in Detroit. Detroit, one of those teams everybody's watching, supposed to be hot this year. For me, the Detroit game in week 15 is because it's in Detroit. That was the deciding factor.
Yeah, home field advantage, definitely a big thing here. Both of these two teams interesting, and that could actually be a very important game for both of them late in the season.
New England comes to Denver. We gave Denver the win.
Denver at home, always tough. In the elevation with their defense, give me the Broncos.
Yeah, New England just right now they don't have a quarterback, and that's not going to help them. Week 17, I mentioned 2 division games against the Chargers. We talked about the home split, so looks like we're giving Denver the win in week 17.
Yep, home split all the way. And as we've been, mentioning a couple times, this could be a very important game at the end of the season here for both teams trying to make the playoffs in this loaded AFC conference.
If you want to see how important, you're going to have to go back and listen to the Las Vegas episode. Week 18, they finished the season at Las Vegas. We gave Denver the win, even though it's in Las Vegas, and it's because of the importance of this game. Again, how important is it? Go back and listen to the Las Vegas episode and find out.
Is this a play-in game? Is this, a game for a wild card spot? The NFL always loves those situations where they flex a game to the Sunday night. That's like a play-in type of situation. this has potential to be one of those games, possibly.
I got them at 10-7. You have them at 11-6. If I've used all my fingers and toes correctly to count this up, from 4th in the division, 5 wins to 10 or 11 wins. That's a lot of credit. That's a big turnaround for a team with a okay running game and hopefully an improved defense. I really think that's what it's going to come down to. Can Peton influence this team, get them fired up, and can the defense get on track? I mean, they have talent on defense.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of talent on defense. Their home field advantage is a big deal, too, especially with that good defense. And look, when I really look at it, it's pretty obvious that it's all about Sean Payton and it's all about Russell Wilson. Upgrading from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton, obviously huge. And Russell Wilson, too. Let's not forget also, last year was his first year with a new team. We've seen this a lot with quarterbacks. They switch teams. They struggle at first. Second year in the system, maybe things are different. So you combine that second-year Russell Wilson with the upgrade from Hackett to Peton. Is that worth an extra 5 or 6 wins? I think it is, but we'll see how it plays out.
Apparently, we both do. Adam Hulse does, and that's what you need to know. Adam Hulse, at Adam Hulse Sports on Twitter, NFL writer at sportskita.com. This is That Effin' Sports Show. Find us at That Effin' Show on Twitter. You can listen to us anywhere podcasts are played. Just use the keyword EFIN to find all of our stuff. We appreciate you joining us. We got 2 teams left. Go back and check all the other ones out, but make sure you come back and see how the Chargers are going to influence this division. They're up next. You're going to be there. We'll be glad to have you. Everybody take care. We'll see you there.
Can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show